Hello again, welcome back everybody to the 90 Mile Podcast. If you are still watching at this point, that means you are like one of 20 people probably, but hello, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. It is Jish Sokolsky yet again, along with my good pal, my buddy, Adam Barrett. How's it going, Adam?
It's good. Not a bunch of great games, but some really good games this
There's
past
like two
weekend.
two good games. The rest
Yeah.
sucked. And
Plus, like first quarter, the Steelers game was good, and then
yeah,
uh,
TJ Watt mode. Anyway, we're if you couldn't tell already, we're gonna be talking about what just happened this past weekend and what's going to happen this following weekend. And what I'm gonna say is gonna be 100% completely right. What Adam says, that's a little bit of 50-50 right there, unless we agree. And that's in that case, he's a gentleman and a scholar, and he's 100% right. So let's get right into it. Let's start off with
let's talk about Raiders Bengals. The first game we'll
sure,
go in
sure,
order.
sure, sure, sure.
I thought it was a good game. I didn't get to see too much of it. Great ending, how it ended on the last second. Like you can never ask more for a playoff game that comes down to the final play,
Exactly.
and that's why it was one of the better games this past week.
Yeah, I also couldn't watch a lot of it. I was calling a game actually, but um, I was there. I was watching that final drive, those final few drives. I think I watched the entirety of the second half. Um, Derek Carr just has no quit in him. You really gotta accredit him to that. Whoever gets him next, because I don't think he's gonna stay with the Raiders. Whoever gets him next is really getting a good quarterback. Unfortunate that it came down to that last second play. But man, I love Joe Burrow, dude. I think if you aren't a Bengals fan, he's your second favorite quarterback.
Yeah. Well, that's what it like. Joe Burrow was just great, like coming out of college, and people have always been saying this that he's what the Browns thought Baker Mayfield would be, which like cocky, but like not like Antonio Brown. Like he will show you his personality, but he won't ruin his career all over it.
Nah, he won me over when he referenced in a press conference. I think this was after the Chiefs win, when he was like, it's just like that meme, F it, Jamar down there somewhere. I was like, that's my quarterback. I don't care. That is my quarterback. I don't care. So
Oh,
so happy for the Bengals. As soon as they won that playoff game, I shot you a text, Adam, because had to stay true to that meme as well.
oh yeah, yeah. I at first I wasn't. Yeah, you had to explain it to me because I forgot about that. That this is the first time
Adam's
everyone.
slow. Adam's a little slow, everyone.
Yeah, I'm a.
You kind of knew that if you've been watching this channel. Not smart, not very bright-headed. Speaking of which, we're gonna go into one of Adam's nuclear takes that the Patriots were gonna win the East. And what happened there on Saturday to the AFC
They,
East
they were just
champions?
output though. Well, no, this weekend wasn't what proves me wrong. It was 2 weeks ago that proves me wrong with that. But I still predict that they're gonna do good. A lot of people counted them out to begin with, and yeah, they just got absolutely smoked. There's no way to speak other way to say it than they got killed.
None of them were ready to play. Really, it seemed like they just came out flat-footed. Receivers were dropping balls, and Josh Allen and the Bills were just unstoppable in that cold weather. You would think Bill Belichick had never coached a playoff game before.
Mhm. Yeah. I tuned into the game a little bit late, and the first play I saw was the first touchdown by the Bills,
Oh my
and Josh Allen
God.
was running all over the place. Looks like he was throwing it out of bounds, but gets a perfect pass to Dawson Knox in the corner of the end zone.
Josh
And
Allen's an
that's like
issue.
when I saw that, I'm just like, yeah, this game's not going that well.
He's a problem. And this is what I've been saying, man. Brian Dable, I think, was so instrumental in the development of Josh Allen. He was a head coaching candidate last year. I think for sure he's getting a job somewhere this year.
I You don't follow as closely as I do. I think he's going to end up as the coach of the Giants, and the reasoning is because the assistant general manager or vice president. I forget what exactly the position is, but someone who has a big part in the Bills front office is is a front runner to get the general manager spot with the Giants, and there's a lot of rumors surrounding that if he does get it, that will be one of his top choices. Which
Right, but he's been a. You're talking about Joe Schoen. He's been a top GM candidate for the Vikings and Bears too. So I don't necessarily think that that's going to be a done deal. So I think wherever Joe Schoen goes, I think that Dable will follow him. You're kind of right about
Yeah,
that.
I can agree with that. Yeah, their package, but I think whoever, whatever team gets them, gets an absolutely not gets a lot of potential because the Bull could be like one of those guys who's not the great of a coach, but a good coordinator. I think he has what it takes to be a good coach, and same with Schoen. Like he has a lot of potential, and if you look at what he's done with the Bills since he came in, it's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, obviously as an assistant GM, you don't know how much credit he's going to
Yeah,
actually get, but you know, I think the Bills heard my take that the Patriots were going to pull it out last week, and they said nope, not
yeah.
going to happen. But I remember seeing the deep ball to Aguilar in the end zone. Patriots almost scored on their first drive, and that ended in a pick. That was a little
Oh,
cathartic for me. That was a little cathartic for me. I don't think Aguilar
wow.
would have caught it anyway, but
No, no. Aguilar got hands once he left the Eagles, so I think Vegas should do the same.
no, he didn't. No, he just got less targets, so he had less opportunities to drop the ball.
Yeah. No, but no, Aguilar's year with the Raiders, that was the solid. Like obviously he wasn't number one. He wasn't like you wouldn't expect him to be a first round pick, but he did have a solid year with the Raiders
He
last year.
was he was a one trick pony. He was their deep threat, and that's all they used him for. And yeah, he did all right in that role. But he would be averaging like his splits would be insane. He'd get like 4 catches, 120 yards, and 3 touchdowns per game. It was so weird, but only
My
like four
favorite
catches.
my favorite was against the Dolphins game last year. There was like no scoring, and there was like four touchdowns in the last second, and it ended with the what is it called, the Braille Mary with Fitzpatrick when the helmet was pulled all the way
Oh
around and he's
man, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what they call that. That's
the
a good
Braille
name,
Mary.
the Braille
Yeah,
Mary. Yeah, and then afterwards, Nelson Aguilar called everybody a loser.
but no, that game was just so great to watch because Aguilar had that deep touchdown. Uh, Gaskins, I think, had two, and it was
Mhm.
just that was a great game.
That
But let's
game,
not.
that game alone put Miles Gaskin as a fourth round running back in fantasy this year. But I
Yeah.
digress.
Instead of talking about last year's games, let's talk about some more of this year's games. Would you like to speak about the Eagles Tampa Bay game?
No. Um, I mean, you know, I'm I I was very hopeful, although the realist side of me saw that that was probably going to happen either way. I mean, everyone was right. We hadn't beaten a playoff team this year, and that's okay because beating the bad teams is what got us there. You look at teams like the Chargers and the Colts who couldn't beat the bad teams and they missed out on the dance. So the fact that we could make it there at all is great. However, that game freaking sucked. Oh my
Well,
god.
I'm gonna
Like,
have to say, yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, it's like as a fan, you always go after the what ifs, like, and for the hope. Like I thought with the Giants this year, bringing Kenny Galladay would like prove to be like my hopes were like it will make it that big of a difference with Danny Jones as Stephon Diggs with Josh Allen and stuff like that. And like as a fan, you always pull on those loose threads just to get hope. So I don't blame you for being hopeful. I blame you for doubting Brady, but I don't blame you for being hopeful as a fan.
I, I never doubted Brady per se. If you watched that last episode, I said I know it's Brady, but you know what? Yeah,
I
I guess
know
that is
Brady,
kind
but
of doubting Brady.
he had no weapons. Is that not what you said?
I mean, he didn't have weapons, and he still oh
Well,
my god, it's just so funny how Jonathan Gannon, our defensive coordinator, is like getting interviews to be a head coach. Like, I have to go on these fans' pages and like convince them, yes, yeah, no, Jonathan Gannon will be a great hire for you. He sucks. He's a terrible defensive coordinator. I don't know why he's getting all this buzz. He made every single good quarterback have like an 80% completion rate. He made Derek Carr look like Brady. He made Brady look like Jesus himself. He made Taylor Heineke look like Dan Marino. Like, why is this dude getting consideration for a head coaching gig? I'm glad he is. Go take him. We'll hire Vic Fangio as our defensive coordinator. That's great. Perfect. Mwah. Bye. But why? He is so bad. He is so bad. We have our corners playing 10 yards off every single time. We have Darius Slay staying on one side of the field. They have one person who was killing us all day, Mike Evans, and we said, let's not put our Pro Bowl corner on their only receiver healthy that day. Like, Jesus Christ, dude. The
Well,
only
what
good
I
thing was Ryan Kerrigan aging back 5 years
okay,
for some reason.
Ryan Kerrigan was a beast, but I was
And
gonna
for
say,
what? He had 3 tackles all season, and now he like doubles that in one game. That's so freaking annoying. In a game that everyone else didn't come to play for. Just ugh.
well, first off, let's talk about Josh Sweat. I don't. Yeah, I'm assuming you know that
Of course
storyline.
I do. I'm in his fan club.
Yeah. First off, let's just say we're happy that he's healthy now, and I just find it crazy that he had to get emergency surgery and yet was still questionable to play until the morning of.
He's a beast.
But yeah, like first off, glad that he's healthy. Uh,
He's the
but
greatest of all time.
do you know who got head coaching interviews at the end of last year from the
Didn't
Giants?
Jason Garrett get head coaching?
Yes, Jason Garrett got more head coaching interviews than Patrick Graham last year. And Patrick Graham did a pretty
Patrick
good
Graham's a
job
good
last year.
coordinator too.
Yeah, that's like so. The head coaching interviews are just crazy.
It's so funny. I really hope like the Texans hire him or like the Broncos just get him out of here. But what's really frustrating to me is now the Jalen Hurts discourse that's all over Eagles Twitter and Eagles media in general. People think that just because he had this one like horrendous game, and it wasn't even that bad. If you look at his passing splits, they are nearly identical to Dak Prescott's.
Well,
It was still a bad game. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. It was still a bad game. But this one game shouldn't be what decides his future as an Eagle. He completely earned his spot for next year as a starting quarterback, in my opinion.
well, I agree. He definitely earned his spot as the starting quarterback, and you can't really compare his numbers to Dak's because like his passing touchdown was in garbage time. But like I said in the last week, a lot of young quarterbacks in their first career start tend to not play well in the playoff. Like Lamar Jackson was terrible.
Kyler
Kyler
Murray.
Murray this week. Kyler Murray was disgusting this week,
Yeah, I mean,
and in a bad way. Not
yeah, I mean, I looked up all the quarterbacks who lost their first playoff starts to feel better about myself. You know, you got like Andrew Luck on that list, Peyton Manning, a bunch of players. Yeah,
yeah, that there's some patterns when it comes to the playoffs with young quarterbacks that you pick up on, and it's not this one that like this is a rebuild year for you guys, so you guys should be freaking out. If you get to the same spot next year and you get beat just as bad, that's when you start to panic a little
exactly.
bit. But like you don't freak out because you still have a young team. But let Jalen Hurts like this is his first full year as a starter. You
Right.
give him another. If you make it to the playoffs, you see what he can do then.
Yeah,
See if
no,
he
I completely agree with you actually, and this is where your gentlemanly and scholarness comes out because I completely agree with that take. Like we now have expectations for Hurts coming into this year. Nobody knew what they were going to get from Hurts, and now we do. Now we know what this team can be, and now they need to be better. And Jalen Hurts needs to work absolutely on his decision making, his mental clock. Absolutely, I'm not gonna sit here and be like Jalen Hurts was perfect this year. He had a lot of rookie mistakes because he basically was a rookie. But people are saying, oh, we need to trade for Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson. No, that would cost like all three of our first round picks, and I don't think it's worth it at that point because we're not
plus
going to contend with our current roster and that much better of a quarterback. I don't see it happening. Jalen Hurts is not the only hole in our team. We have a horrid aging defense. We need to use those first 3 round picks on linebacker or secondary or D line. If we trade those away, we're setting ourselves up for failure in the future.
I just thought of this. Would you trade two first round picks, Jalen Hurts, and another day two pick for Deshaun Watson this offseason? Assuming he gets all his legal stuff out of the way.
See, that's a good question because we wouldn't be giving up everything for him. And I don't know if the Texans would take that because they still have Davis Mills, but um, no, who am I saying? They of course would take that. We could probably even get him for cheaper because of how much leverage Deshaun Watson has on getting out of there. If his cases are dropped, he'll probably have a bunch of leverage to get out of there. And I mean, yeah, that would be better in my opinion because Deshaun Watson's still young enough where you don't have to worry about what happens when he retires. Like I don't think Deshaun Watson's even reached his peak yet. But again, like that's a big if. I don't see that happening, and also we can't give up our future for our present. And obviously, nobody's debating Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, and Deshaun Watson are all better quarterbacks than Jalen Hurts at this present moment, for sure. But I'm not going to sit here and watch my team lose in the divisional round or NFC Championship year after year and then have to completely blow it up after and squander the young talent that's on our team.
I could agree with that, but Deshaun Watson's also still very young, so that's the
Right.
big. But we're getting onto a lot of tangents right now. Let's talk about the next playoff game. Cowboys Niners, phenomenal game,
About to
and
turn me into Stephen A. Smith right here.
well, I just have a question for stats because I heard this and it's which playoff matchup between two teams happened the most ever?
Oh,
Like like which two teams met up played each other in the playoffs?
I would assume it's Niners Cowboys.
That's what I thought, but no, it's nine. It's Cowboys Rams with 9 times.
That's interesting. That makes sense too, because I know like back in the '70s they had like 4 straight years where that was the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, there's
So
that, and then there's also with the when there's Greatest Show on Turf and
the
is it the 8th
90s.
or the
Well,
Star
no, I
Star?
think the Cowboys dynasty had died by the time Greatest Show on Turf came around.
Yeah, but no, but they still they around
They might
that
have played.
time they still had like they still had like 1 or 2 years where they made it. I think they played the Greatest
I
Show on
feel like
Turf.
that might have been only 1 year of overlap. I know there was
Yeah.
the most recent one was back in 2018. That was the C.J. Anderson game.
Yeah. Well, there's
That was a fun game to watch. I don't think late '90s Cowboy because Cowboys really started to fall off after '96. So they might have met like one time, but by that point the dynasty was dying.
okay. I'm looking for the playoff ones. But yeah, no. The Rams lead the play. The series between them two all time is tied 18-18. But yeah, I can't find it. Yeah, okay. But
It
anyway,
doesn't really matter.
let's talk about this week. This week it was the ending
Oh
was.
man.
I'm just gonna say what I love about this Cowboys game was that the ending with the QB draw on with 14 seconds left and no time out made Joe Judge going for doing a QB sneak on 39 look like the best play call ever.
Man,
Okay.
if they hadn't fired Joe Judge at that point, maybe that would have saved his job. I mean, I understand you're trying to like trick them, but you have no timeouts. And then Dak Prescott gets up and does a goof, gives the ball to his lineman instead of giving it to the official. The official has to touch the ball. Everyone has known this. This is like part of your 2 minute drill. And then you're gonna sit there in your post game interview and be like, "Oh, it's a good thing that they were throwing the debris at the refs." No, you're just stupid.
Mhm,
All the offensive minds behind that play, all the offensive players behind that play, idiotic.
mhm. Well, like that game, like what you mentioned with Dak, like blaming the refs. That game wasn't what like I like the Niners. I think they are a good team, but they didn't win that game. The Cowboys lost it with the amount of penalties that they had.
Yeah. I mean, that's been the case all year, and a lot of them haven't been called. 52 on the Cowboys. Connor Williams, he like he can't play a rep without holding on to somebody, and he's I think the most penalized guy in their O line anyway. But like I've watched him on plays that he hasn't been called for flags, and he's just grabbing onto dudes for dear life. Just a scrub of a player. But I think the Niners, at least like their first half performance was enough to win. Like Debo
Oh,
Samuel was incredible.
they deserved the win, but like a big part of their win was because they didn't beat themselves. Cowboys beat themselves, and that's what it comes down to in the NFL: which team beats themselves and which team doesn't. But in
Right.
a lot,
Right. No, you're right. The fake punt though was actually a pretty good move, except when they tried doing the hurry up offense from it. It's like they accidentally hit triangle.
yeah. No, that fake punt was kind of obvious, but and like the 49ers, they knew that it was coming too. They just didn't think they were throwing it out wide because if you look, they had Fred Warner and like two other linebackers stand right at the sticks, but in the middle, not out wide.
Mm, happens, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, I know you've seen that legendary photo of Trent Williams laughing at Cowboys fans.
No, I
Oh,
don't
it's
think I.
so great. Oh my god. Oh my god, wait. I gotta show this to you now. It's so awesome.
No,
Trent Oh my god, wait.
that's like I wasn't that this into football when Trent Williams was on Washington. But now that I'm this big into football, was he this good with Washington? Because he's a freak of nature with
He
the.
was really good with Washington, but they really mismanaged his injuries. Like he had cancer at one point and they
Yeah, that's what drove him out.
yeah. I mean they
But,
they that was just like their MO. They did the same thing with RG3, which ruined his career. Like,
well, did you hear about RG3's book? I want to read it. He released it a couple months ago. It's called Surviving Washington, and from what I've heard, it speaks about his own experience with the sexual harassment in the building.
ooh.
Yeah, but he talks about I know he exposes a lot of things that happen inside of the franchise, which is something that I feel
Yeah,
would be an interesting read.
pretty interesting for perusing, I would say.
Yeah.
Um yeah, but I'm disappointed that Dak won the MVP, though I should have saw it coming. It's now going to be like tradition that the losing quarterback wins MVP, and it helps if he has a funny name.
I'm just gonna say it. Mitch Trubisky, even though he lost last year, he's the people's champion.
He is still
Just
the
like
true MVP. Mitch
just
Kissing
like
titties.
that, just like that Adam in Real Steel, he is the people's champion.
I don't understand that reference, but
You
anybody
don't know?
named Adam is
Oh,
automatically not the people's
Atom,
champ.
Atom, Atom. Do you not know the movie Real Steel?
No. Anybody named Adam, I don't listen to them anyway, so I mean like it doesn't make a difference to me.
Real
Um
Steel is a classic. Oh
I
my
prefer
god.
fake iron. Um
No, no,
but
Real. It's the robot boxing league.
okay.
Oh, okay, okay. You need okay.
I don't
Now,
need anything. You need to get on.
what? Well, this is
Let's talk
no.
about the next game, huh?
Yeah, the final game.
It's not
Oh
the
no,
final
the
game. Two
final
games.
game.
You
The
got
final game on Sunday night. That's how I said.
Steelers. Yeah, you got Steelers Chiefs, and I mean like this was obvious. Like I don't I there's not a lot to say about this. Chiefs were just having fun in the red zone. I love that. I love how they just experimented with those formations as if it was like a
Yeah.
preseason game and not at that point of their season the most important game. Like the Chiefs are back.
Mhm. Well, what yeah, the Chiefs. I knew the Chiefs were back after their first Oakland game where they just whooped them, but on Sunday Night Football. But you got to give it to the Steelers. They fought hard for the first up until 4 minutes left of the second quarter. They were in that game. They were fighting hard. But once they let it, that's what it is. When it rains, it pours. When you play the Chiefs, if you let up one touchdown, they're gonna keep ride the momentum and just get you out of the game as soon as possible. And that's what that's what hurt the Steelers. They were
Yeah,
playing hard. They made one slip up, and the Chiefs just kept piling on.
I know. I know how that feels. I mean, the Steelers shouldn't have been there anyway. Like they tied the Detroit Lions this year. There is no way they should have been in there. Like any team that, and speaking of which, that's a good transition to the Cardinals game. Any team that
That was
comes close to Detroit, or any team that lost or tied to Detroit, does not deserve a playoff spot. The Vikings already knew that they shouldn't even be in the playoffs, and they just stopped trying in the last half of the season. But
mhm.
the Cardinals, oh boy, leaves a bad taste
they
in my mouth still.
they were just not in it.
Nope. And
And it
again,
was so to see. It was sad to see J.J. Watt came back from a really bad injury to play in that game, and you could and they just weren't in it.
and it wasn't even scoregami. That same score it happened earlier this season. I forget
What
who it
was it?
was. I think it was oh, I forget who it was, but
What was the final score again?
I think it was like 34-11. But
4-11. I think that happened in a Giants game, but I'm not sure about.
possibly that's what I thought too. But it was something else. No, no, no. I
I think
forget.
you beat us 34-11.
We beat you 34-10. Um,
We didn't go to two?
no,
I'm checking that.
it was definitely 34-10.
I know you finished with
You went for
34,
the
but
onside kick afterwards. That's what happened. You didn't go for two
and
though.
we got it right.
No.
And no, it was. I know the Giants. No, it was against the Chargers. Giants got an onside kick and then just went 3-and-out. Or 4.
Joe Judge in a nutshell.
No, but that was that week. The Giant that week there was like 6 onside kicks recoveries, which was just insane. Oh no,
Madness.
the Giants lost 38-11 to the Rams. That's what it was.
Mm.
And
Well,
yeah, 30,
either way, we saw vintage Odell. We saw Kyler
cool.
Murray completely go late season Russell Wilson mode. We saw Cliff Kingsbury show to us who he was for all to see. And we saw Aaron Donald and Von Miller eat.
Well, Aaron Donald got into another fight. Oh my!
Why would you pick a fight with Aaron Donald?
I exactly like
Why who makes that decision?
all these people are like getting mad at Aaron Donald for fighting. If Aaron Donald's mad at you, you go, "I'm sorry, sir," and walk away. You don't
Exactly.
like
Why
you saw earlier this year and last Monday night. He literally like basically held up an offensive lineman by the neck. He held up 300 pounds, just like
gave him the Steven Adams treatment?
like it. No, like what happened this off season with Aaron Donald with the bar fight. That was crazy.
Yeah, he was acquitted in that though. But
Well,
again, who's making these decisions? I think who else got into it? It's like if you're an injury prone player wanting to play for Bruce Arians. Like, what are you thinking?
or it's like Kadarius Toney punching a guy with a helmet on.
or or the same thing happened to who was it, Javon Wims last year? That funny video of
Yeah.
him like punching CJ Gardner Johnson, and he's like, "What?"
No, it's so funny. I love that video so much because if you watch the entire thing, what happened was they got into it a couple plays earlier. So Wims goes off the field, calms down, goes back on the field, and he wasn't even like lined up against Gardner Johnson. He was lined up against I think Jandoris Jenkins, and goes over, pulls out his mouth guard, and then just hits him across the mouth. And CJ Gardner Johnson has no idea what happened. And what makes it even funnier is it was the same week that CJ Gardner Johnson got punched by Michael Thomas in practice.
Okay, if you're getting into a fight with him, I kind of understand. He's gotten into it with everybody.
Oh,
And then later that season, when the Bears met the Saints in the postseason, they met the Saints, right? He dropped the
yeah,
wide open touchdown.
yeah, on the flea flicker.
Right, went right through his hands. Ugh, good times. But I mean, let's transition into this coming week. So
Yes,
we've got Bengals Titans.
that's the first game, I believe. Yeah,
Yeah, I think the
that
Titans win that one.
I think the Titans win just because the Bengals are coming off a week. Titans finally health. The only thing that's gonna mess with the Titans, and that's the only thing that scares me. Still think Titans win. Is that the Bengals are an explosive team, no doubt about it, and they can go up 14-0 quickly, and you in a blink of an eye. And with the Titans, they have the skill to weather that storm, and they have the coaching to weather that storm in the beginning. The only thing that scares me is they've had so many injuries that even though they're healthy now, they're not going to be all on the same page. It always takes a little bit for them to really like get back to playing with each other and get that chemistry built up again. and depending on how long, I know you're looking confused, but it's like let's go with offensive lineman. If you're playing with the same guy all like the left tackle and left guard are playing with each other all year, and then the left guard goes down, the new it's not the same chemistry. It's not the same playing. Even if the two guards have the same talent, it's just not the same.
I mean, no. Like I understand what you're saying, but the Titans, I think, have this in the bag for a few reasons. One, Derrick Henry's coming back, and you can't stop him. He almost had 1,000 yards by the midway point of the season when he got hurt. And two, the Bengals just lost Larry Ogunjobi, one of the premier defensive tackles in the league. So they're going to be down a key run stuffer to begin with. Their defense isn't incredible by any stretch of the imagination with King Henry back. I mean, we've seen him in the playoffs. He goes on a tear. So, I mean, the Bengals will have to sell out to stopping him, but then you have AJ Brown on the outside who's had a great year this year fighting through injuries.
Mhm.
There's just no way, in my opinion, like if this Titans offense is on and hitting on all cylinders, they're winning.
Well, that's like I agree with you. I think the Titans win that game. I just think that, like you said, if they're on, I think it's going to take a little bit of time in the game for them to really hit their stride. And going against that Bengals team, they can put up the score against you quick.
Right, sure.
And that's the only thing that's gonna weather the storm for Tennessee.
Yeah, and
Right.
Tennessee doesn't have a great secondary. You're right about that, but I just think that the reemergence of Derrick Henry and the loss of Larry Ogunjobi is going to be the X factor of the game.
Mhm.
Moving on, the other AFC game is going to be Chiefs Bills, the rematch in Arrowhead.
Well, that's what I'm so excited for. But to be completely honest, I don't think the Bills have a shot.
You don't think they have a shot?
Well, obviously they have a shot. I just think that I think the Chiefs win, and
I
it
think I'm
won't.
going to agree with you just because I think that the Bills, the loss of Tre'Davious White is going to hurt them more this week than it did against the Patriots, who have no true number one wide receiver, and the Chiefs can just go anywhere with the ball on the field. So they need all their DBs to be playing on all Madden mode, or else they're done for. They're donezo, and they also can't really stop the run even though the Chiefs don't have a strong rushing attack per se. That's just always been an issue of them. The Bills are one of the most talented teams with the most holes, which is really weird. They need a lot of offensive line and defensive line help, and the loss of Tre'Davious White is
Yeah.
crucial to them. And the Chiefs
Well,
just have been on such a hot streak that it's impossible to bet against them.
it, the I was gonna say first off, the Chiefs have just been on such a hot streak. Second off, they just like obviously they lost to the Bills earlier this year, but in meaningful game, like they show it. They put it to the Bills last year. I think they had what it takes to do it again. And the third thing it is not only do the Bills not have a great defense, but they don't really have a good edge rusher. Like they don't have any edge threat, and Mahomes can just will be able to sit in the pocket and just rip them to shreds.
Right. I disagree. I don't think they have any. I think they have like Rousseau and Epineza, when they have fresh legs, they can rotate in and out. But the Chiefs' O line has actually been really good, so they can neutralize them. I don't think that they have no edge threats, but
But it's gonna be like for them to generate pressure, they're gonna have to send blitz. But we've learned that it's best against Mahomes. Like especially earlier this year, teams were not blitzing Mahomes, and he was struggling for in the beginning. And that's what's gonna hurt the Bills.
mm,
Now let's go to the NFC. Do we want to start with the Packers, Niners, or Tampa and the Rams?
I like this Packers Niners matchup. I really do. Um, the Niners have been really hot, but we've seen them disappear against teams like the Titans. So it'll be interesting to see how the Packers can contain Debo Samuel. He's going to be a problem for them all day. I think this is going to be a really big George Kittle game. But at the end of the day, I think the Packers win just because they have gotten so much production from that defense. And Aaron Rodgers is playing even better than he was last year when he won the MVP. He's going to win it again. So, a little spoiler for next episode and for life. Like, I'm just right about this, but they're going to make it to the NFC Championship at least again.
I could agree with that. I still think the Packers win because I think they're more talented than the Niners. But the two things that scare me is Fred Warner. Yes, he says like he posted on his Twitter that he's okay, but he's still gotta like kind of like he's not gonna be 100%. And I haven't researched or heard much about Nick Bosa. Those are two huge factors that will play on that San Fran defense.
Right.
But
Also,
and
Jimmy
then
G is bad, so
that's not well. Jimmy G is just banged up. It's like it's really bad. Like the stuff that coming out is saying that's really bad. His injuries and
mm,
how I see is that Niners are the more physical team, but and that's what tends to beat the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs. Like when they played each other 2 years ago, Packers got whooped because they were just manhandled physicality wise, even though I think they had more talent. But this year, I just feel it's different. This year, the Green Bay defense is a lot more physical. Offensively, I think Rodgers knows how to play better. Like, I think week one loss to the Saints is going to be the reason that they win this week.
that's an interesting take, I would say. I think that this Niners offensive line, like you said, will get the best of this Packers defensive line, but I just don't think Jimmy G is prepared for this finger wise. They're gonna to have him throw much more because the Packers will be going up early. And I don't trust Jimmy G with the ball in my hand. Although I do trust Brandon Ayuk to cook any all pro corner in his way. So I mean they don't have Jair Alexander, but Rasul Douglas is
And
an Eagles legend and also just a legend. So
Kevin,
yeah, well Kevin King is he shouldn't get playing time really. They should. Is Stokes healthy?
I think so. Stokes had a good year.
Yeah, Stokes and Douglas have had incredible years, and
Douglas had
I always saw the vision with Rasul Douglas. I always saw it. I thought he was awesome in that 2018 season when he had to fill in, but
Douglas was yeah
I
yeah.
love Rasul. He had his first career interception against the Giants. Just
A lot of teams do. A lot of
saying.
players. Uh, and then the final game is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Los Angeles Rams. That's gonna be a fun game.
That
Do
is
you
going
want?
to be a fun game.
Do you wanna?
I think the Rams are going to win. I
Ooh, I
do.
disagree.
I mean, it's probably popular to disagree because this would be an upset, but the Bucks last week, while they were able to beat the Eagles, they still have those health concerns, and now they've gone on. They've what's the word? They've increased with Ryan Jensen and Tristan Wirfs both sustaining injuries in that game. Both of
Well,
them were
right,
clearly unwell. I know Arians will probably want them to play anyway, but they were not 100% at
honestly,
all.
Worth went in and came out, but Jensen finished the game, I believe.
Jensen finished the game, but he also wasn't playing 100%. He was allowing a lot of interior pressure as well, which is horrible when you're playing Aaron Donald and Von Miller. So their line is banged up. They're probably going to get Leonard Fournette back next week, but Mike Evans is still their only reliable healthy receiver, and they have a reliable corner in Jalen Ramsey who can lock Mike Evans up. And of course, you never want to doubt Brady. You never do. But against a Rams defense that perfectly matches up against this Bucks offense, I think they can. Matt Stafford's playoff experience does come into question, sure, but we saw this offense just kick that Cardinals booty last week. And the Bucks secondary isn't much better than the Cardinals, if at all. They played really well against Philly, but it
Well,
comes down to coaching. I do think that Todd Bowles will come up with a good game plan, but I think that Sean McVay will overcome it.
yeah, that's it. I want the Rams to win, and I hope you're right. But first off, it's hard to bet against Brady. Second off,
True.
Tampa's home, and that's going to play a factor. Not a huge one, but it will affect it.
Well,
And
they're
the
like a
third thing,
warm weather team too. So
and then the third thing that people aren't counting for, it's very difficult to beat a team twice in 1 year. I know the Saints do this with Brady, but especially Brady, it's hard to beat Brady twice in 1 year. And the Rams already beat Tampa. And I feel like that's going to play a factor. And I know you don't like saying that, but it's very hard to beat a team twice in 1 year, especially considering Brady's a whole nother monster in the postseason. and I
Well,
feel Brady's gonna find a way to win this game.
Bucks beat the Eagles earlier. They beat him in the playoffs. Rams beat the Cardinals earlier, beat him in the playoffs. Bills beat the Patriots earlier, beat him in the playoffs. I think that is completely
The
unreasonable.
Bills
Chiefs beat
and
the
the
Steelers.
the Bills and the Rams are both unfair examples because either way you have to have beaten a team twice in 1 year.
I'm just saying that the Bucks have lost to some pretty bad quarterbacks. They've lost to Trevor Simeon. They've lost to Taysom Hill. They've lost to Taylor Heineke. They've the Bucks have had some very fluky games, and I think at a game where they're not full strength is going to be a game that the Rams can take advantage of. They were even fuller strength week 3, and now they're weaker and depleted in the season with a coach who, more and more each week is sounding kind of like a warmonger when it comes to his player, forcing them out there with injuries. So you don't know who's playing at like 80%, who's playing at 100%, who's playing at 30%, and who can't play at
Yeah.
all and is still out there trying their best. So I think it's really gonna come down to the Rams just matching up really well with the Bucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope so. I hope the Rams win. It'll be great to see Staff like 'cause it'll be great to see Stafford in the obviously they still need to win the NFC conference game, but still I would like to see the Rams win it all this year because it was nice to see Stafford win.
I predicted the Rams to be the 2 seed in the preseason. I originally had them as the 1 seed, but that's because I just forgot the Bucks existed. But um, they beat them week 3, and
Yeah.
they can beat them again. I think.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, my this prediction, my uncle, because my family is a big football family. He said before there was even a game this play like it was before preseason. He goes Super Bowl prediction Rams Bills, and both those teams have a tough game this week, but can like if they could pull out a win this week, they have a very good shot at making it to the.
It would be pretty cool to see a Stafford Rogers NFC Championship matchup. That would be epic.
Oh my, that would be great. See, that's the thing. There's some like matchups that can play out to be very good, like very nice to see. Bills Brady would be nice to see in the Super Bowl. Rogers Stafford in the NFC conference game. Rogers Brady again. Great.
No, please don't give me that again.
I don't want that again, but it's still like
It
the
would be
two.
another good matchup. It would be like like good narratives. Like can Rogers get his revenge? But I don't like
I
either of them. So
no, agree with the narratives thing, but I just like it will be a phenomenal narrative. But I don't want to see Brady in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs or the Bills because
seriously,
either way the narrative is going to be crazy. Like they're just going to milk the narrative, and I do not want that.
Packers Titans would be worse because there would be no narratives. Like what are you gonna talk about? No
What if
narratives.
the Rams have a narrative like Rams the teams that always have a narrative if they make the Super Bowl like this year the Bengals will have a narrative being
Uh huh.
Joe yeah the Bills will have a narrative the Chiefs will have a narrative
I don't even
the
know if the Chiefs would.
coming off of a loss last year they're gonna milk
Maybe.
that
Sure.
um yeah the Stafford with the Rams Brady just Brady and then like Green Bay, you could say Rogers is the only thing that they could talk about, but they like the Titans, like the the Titans versus the Packers. It's going to be Rogers trying to get a second Super Bowl versus the most injured team in the league. There's not really that great of a storyline with it.
Yeah. Well, I think we've covered all our bases right now. So thank you guys for
Yeah,
tuning in. I realized in the last episode I forgot to cut out me ending the stream. So enjoy that. If you watched that far, you probably didn't, but if you guys enjoyed this video, please do the YouTube thing. Give it a like, give it a subscription, give it a comment if you so please. Tell us who your Super Bowl prediction is down below. And
yeah.
as always, I'm Jish, that's Adam, and we'll see you next week, hopefully. Peace out, everyone.